So I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to a tool called FitCheck that you can use as you're collaborating with different people to solve problems with complex requirements. What prompted me to do this was really experiencing this firsthand, sitting in meetings, watching people struggle to come up with solutions to design problems that have lots of different requirements. In my role, I lead a team of engineers, product managers, and designers. They use this tool all the time. The team is good at shipping very, very quickly. And this is one of the things that they use to work through complex problems and make sure that product development continues and that they're able to ship features quickly and on time. So recently, I recognized that this was a tool that is sort of applicable beyond product management and product design. A few weeks ago, I was sitting in a meeting, a cross-functional meeting with a bunch of different people, working on a project related to pricing and packaging, trying to figure out how to hit a growth objective, realizing that there are levers to pull around pricing and how a product was packaged up and taken to market. And it hit me that this tool would be applicable for a challenge like this. I'm going to use that as an example as we sort of work through how to use the tool, but this can really be applicable to anything that keeps you up at night, whether it's launching some kind of marketing campaign, updating a process in a business, just whatever's sort of keeping you up at night and bothering you. I also want to mention that I'm not claiming to have invented anything new here. This was arrived at through some work that I did with Ryan Singer, who wrote the book Shape Up. His work is dedicated to helping product and engineering teams get unstuck and get back to shipping quickly and shipping what matters. And this sort of came along as we developed a set of tools to make product development teams faster. So if you know things like matrix decision-making, grid analysis, Dr. Taguchi has something called quality function deployment, QFD, which is a very, very advanced version of this. If you're familiar with all those tools, you probably have this problem solved. This isn't going to be anything new. But if you find yourself stuck in meetings where people propose a problem and a solution and somebody says, hey, that might not work because of X, Y, and Z. And then you start spinning and going around and around. And then at the end of the meeting, somebody says, you know what, we need to take this offline and another group needs to work on this. And you get that sort of deflated feeling where there's not a lot of progress. This tool might actually help you get through those meetings. When we got into this meeting to discuss pricing and packaging, we recognized that there was a growth objective that we needed to hit. And we all knew that pricing and packaging was an opportunity for us to sort of clean things up and get to this growth objective. One of the attendees of the meeting had taken it upon himself to basically take a first stab at it and threw an Excel spreadsheet that looked pretty similar to this up on the screen for everybody to look at. So here we've got a fictional CRM product. You can see I've got 3 packages, good, better, best. In the good package, CRM functionality, reporting, entry price of $1,000 a month, no setup. Move up to best, it adds SSO support, so a little bit of an enterprise feature there. The setup fee goes up because you got to configure that, right? And now we're up to $3,000 a month. And then finally we get to the best package, adds automated export so you can get your data out if you need to, API extensibility if you need to add on things and write custom software on top of it. And now we're up to $10,000 a month and a $50,000 setup. So the great thing is in the meeting, this feels like a wonderful step forward, right? Everybody around the table saying, wow, this is like better than what we have now. It cleans up a lot of stuff. Like this is fantastic. And it acts as a good jumping off point for more conversation. So feeling good about it, looking at the screen, everybody kind of agreeing, having, unstructured conversation, which is great. And then a couple minutes in, people start asking questions. And the first one that comes out is just about the contrast of value between the good package and the better package. And the conversation starts to go, you know what, it's just SSO. We're not really adding any like user-facing features. We triple the price per month to go from good to better. Are people really gonna pay that, right? And then conversation goes on and somebody says, we've got a lot of reporting capability in our app. So why don't we do this? Let's go in and do basic reporting in good and advanced reporting in better. And the group feels even better about this, right? Like, okay, clearly there's the ability to pull things apart here. I can sort of slim down the good package, which makes sense because, man, we are giving a lot away for free right now. Let's get advanced reporting into the better package and we're good. Now we can demand $3,000 a month. And then, so feel good, have some more conversation. And the next question sort of surfaces, right? Okay, we've got a growth objective that we need to hit, and it's got timing around it, right? We can't take forever to hit a growth objective. That's just not how business works. And if we're going to do this, we actually need to rewrite a good portion of our app, because right now reporting is reporting and it's all put together in one place. So we're going to need to get an engineering team, scope this work, figure out how it's, we're going to sort of peel this apart in the interface, in the back end, all this sort of thing. And what's the timing involved in that, right? We know we've got a deadline to hit around growth. How are we gonna figure this out? And everybody agrees, like, this isn't gonna work because we're gonna need to redo the application. So let's go back to what we had before, because peeling this apart is just not, in the interest of time, is not gonna work. Okay, so have a little bit more conversation, and then we're back to basically trying to solve this. And somebody says, you know what? Okay, if we can't create the contrast with reporting, maybe we just reduce the contrast in the pricing, right? If we go to $2,000 a month here, I've still got to cover the setup fee for the SSO, but I bring that down. If I can't create contrast in the value, maybe I reduce the contrast in the price. Now I can easily get them to jump from $1,000 to $2,000 a month in order to get to that SSO. Again, starting to feel better. And then, the sales guy who runs the sales function raises his hand and says, you know what, that's all well and good, but I don't know that better price point is enough to actually pay a salesperson, and if they'll be incented to sell that better package. I have a feeling that we're going to move a lot of the good package, not a lot of the better package, because they're just not going to grapple over that $1,000 a month just for SSO. It's just not going to put food on the table. Okay, so now we're trying to figure that out. What we're doing here, and you're probably familiar with meetings like this where we're going around and around and we're having a lot of conversation, is what I call whack-a-mole design. So we solve one problem, right? Let's split reporting into basic and advanced, and all of a sudden another problem pops up. Wait a minute, that we don't have endless time. We got a time constraint here that we need to figure out. And you can imagine the game in the arcade that we've all played where I hit one thing and the next mole pops up, and I got to hit that mole and then it pops back, right? So now we've pulled features apart, we've put them back together, we've moved pricing, we realized we created a sales challenge. And what's happening is, in the meeting, everybody is trying to hold all of these requirements in their head, design the next thing, and requirements just keep building up until we can't hold them all in our head. And then what usually happens in my experience is somebody says, you know what, we need a small group to go take this offline because we don't have the time to work through this. In my opinion, that's a deflating feeling. We're all here to figure this out. It's not going to get better than a bunch of smart people sitting around a table or in a call like this trying to figure it out. Now we've got to sort of disassemble and go our separate ways. And it feels like we're losing progress here. So I left that meeting and I started to think about how it compared to the product design and product development sessions that I'm used to. And it occurred to me that they're very similar in terms of the objectives. They're both about solving complex challenges with lots of different requirements. The other thing that happened is a lot of contrasts started to jump out at me. Two things specifically. One, the idea that the tools that we use to collaborate are incredibly important. If we go back to that meeting, you can imagine yourself in a meeting like this, people around a conference room table, 5, 6, 7 people around a conference room table, one person sharing something on a screen, right? And everybody commenting on it. Those people have that person has the proverbial pen in their hands. They can make changes and updates to the doc. Maybe they share a link and other people can sort of log in. But in any case, Excel is pushing back on collaboration and prototyping. So it feels very heavy to make any sort of change to this thing. If I just start typing in all the different cells, it's like, wait a minute, I created these packages as a jumping off point. Now you're editing them all and I'm forgetting what I created, and you're sort of making a bunch of changes. Copying that into a new worksheet also feels like very, very heavy. I've got to name the new worksheet. I'm just trying to figure out if I have an idea that has legs. I don't know what to call it yet. The first thing I have to do is name it. Everybody's going to sort of watch me do this work. And again, it feels like very heavy in terms of wanting to explore ideas and being able to actually do it. If you're not familiar with the Excel example, you've probably faced this with a PowerPoint presentation, right? We're in design mode. We're trying to figure something out and somebody puts a PowerPoint presentation up. Again, you have that feeling of like, wow, like this is a great step forward. But then when you start to face the idea of, wait a minute, we might have to change some things like that, even if I get access to it, am I supposed to copy that slide and start making changes to create a prototype or start playing with a new idea? Now I'm adding slides to somebody's deck. It just feels very, very icky. So these tools are pushing back. The second contrast that I noticed is, unless there's an actual structured approach to problem solving, structure is too big of a word, semi-structured, any sort of agreed upon method that we're going to use to peel this apart, the conversation just takes a ton of energy, right? So again, everyone's holding the requirements in their head. They don't have a good tool to use to sort of sketch things out. They're trying to come up with design ideas in their head, and then they're waiting for that entry point in the conversation where they can sort of like lob it in. Are you done with the point you were making? Can I suggest something new? And now everybody has to remember the past part of the conversation while they're thinking about the thing that you proposed. Again, it tends to lead to these deflating moments where people just raise their hand and say, you know what? Some of us are going to go offline and wrestle with this because this isn't the right venue, and that's not what we're after. So in order to make progress, we need to solve both of those things. In my opinion, solving the first one is easy. In the past, we'd use whiteboards. Find a room with as many whiteboards as you can. Everyone gets a marker. We've all got space to prototype. We can have conversations, sketch things out quickly. Today, we're all remote. Lots of us are remote. So we need to find tools. In my opinion, there are great tools for this. Lucid, Miro, M-I-R-O, Mural. There's probably more that I don't know of. They're all great. They're basically digital whiteboards. We use Lucid Spark. You're going to see me demonstrate this with Lucid Spark in a couple minutes, but the reality is pick one and go with it. The important part is that everybody can log in, everyone can collaborate. It's very easy to add sticky notes and sort of sketch out ideas. The great part is that you can start and you can flesh out an idea, and then for somebody to start to play with another version, it's easy for them to copy what you have, go off someplace on the whiteboard, the virtual whiteboard, paste it in, start working. And then I do this. If I have something that hangs together, I can say, everybody click my icon. They can click, they'll all move to see what I've done, and I could quickly take people through it. So it's very typical that lots of people are prototyping a lot of different things, and we're sort of pulling each other around the whiteboard to show each other ideas. Conversely, and I think just as important, I can go off and play with an idea, and it happens a lot. If it doesn't have legs and it doesn't hang together, I just hit delete, or I put a little note there that says this won't work, so that it's sort of in the archive. But you can start to see, and you, especially when we get into the visualization of this, is it's very different than editing somebody's Excel spreadsheet, editing somebody's PowerPoint. I can very quickly create different versions of this stuff, very lightweight, and I can prototype quickly. To get onto the second challenge, this semi-structured approach to problem solving, we'll get into the fit check and introduce that. I'm basically going to redo that meeting, except this time, instead of having everybody stare at an Excel spreadsheet, imagine everybody in this tool using, this is called Lucid Spark. But again, pick any of these virtual whiteboards and they're going to work. So I've taken the Excel spreadsheet, I've pasted it into our Lucid document. This is very similar to how any of our product design sessions would kick off. So imagine a product manager starts to uncover an opportunity, maybe does jobs to be done interviews, does some analysis, says, hey, there's dollars here. There's people wanting this product, wanting this feature. They do that work. They'd usually rough out an initial first sketch. This is one way that we could go after this opportunity. And then we'd pull people together to try to figure out if we can address the opportunity and solve the challenge. So again, I'm dropping our first version here. What I do is I'd click here. I'd call this option A, right? It's our jumping off point. And then if we get back to that meeting, the first thing that happened, we all felt good, right? We were making progress. And then somebody started to ask a question. And when I hear that question, I actually hear a requirement. So I'm going to start typing requirements here. Let's make this a different color just to keep track of it. And then the first question that came up was, we need to have enough, there's enough contrast between the good package and the better package, right? So I would say a requirement is enough contrast. It's like enough value contrast between packages, right? Now I can start to build this. We've got our option A. I'm going to say no. And the other thing that happened through that conversation is we quickly somebody proposed option B. So I can go down to here. I can call this option B. And then what actually happened, right? This was basic reporting and then advanced reporting. If I wasn't going so fast, I'd probably do a little bit better of a job here. I'd clean this up, right, and find a way to sketch this Excel out so that it was a little bit clearer. But in any case, I now have option B, where I can go in and say, yes, we've got a new requirement here, and option B satisfies it. Then the conversation went on, right? And it started out as like, wait, we've got to rewrite our app. But the first thing was something like packages need to launch by May 1st. And then really like needs to satisfy our end of year growth goal. We've got some timing stuff here that's just bubbled up to the surface, right? So again, back to option A, the thing that was proposed, it's fine. We'll say that satisfies that requirement. It would probably satisfy our end of year growth goal. Although I don't know if it really were true, I might put yes question mark. We'd maybe just go with it. But the contrast here might be negating that. Option B, we're going to say no. It's not going to meet our May 1st deadline and our end of year because it requires dev effort. So now, again, we've added another requirement. Can't require engineering effort because it's gonna delay things, right? So again, option A is fine. Option B, we're not gonna build something new. Okay, so now we've quickly gone through two options, and then what happened next? We were in our meeting. And we basically started to throw out another option around, let's change the price. So we're going to go down here, and instead of $3,000 a month, I'm just going to cover this up. I'm going to say $2,000 a month, and we're not going to change the setup. So we'll say $10,000 setup. This is an option B. This is option C. I can go back up here. Now, what do we have? We've got option C. Enough contrast between packages. We sort of addressed this, right? We changed the price instead of the value, but we were able to solve this. It doesn't require engineering effort. So I think like we can launch this thing by May 1st. I think it's going to satisfy our growth goal. Again, this is satisfied, doesn't require engineering. So we're going to say yes. And then what happened? This other thing popped up where somebody said needs to support a salesperson's salary. We got tripped up there. And then really there's another aspect of this is like packages need to all be interesting to a sales person. That's a little squishy. But again, when we had 1,000, 3,000, 10,000, I think we were in better shape. We could say, yes, this supports a salesperson's salary. They're all interesting. For option B, I think we had it there too, right? So it was all interesting. It was all interesting enough, but it required dev effort. So now we've got another solution here. So we're quickly going through. I think what would naturally happen, at least if I were in the room, I think somebody actually recommended this. Option D. What if everything was just its own SKU? Forget packages. Let's just let the salespeople work with the customer, put something together. Now we've got option D. Is there enough value between packages? I'm going to say not really applicable. Can I launch this by May 1st? Yeah, probably. Satisfy? Yep. Oh, wait a minute. It will require engineering effort, so it doesn't satisfy that. I think it satisfies the salesperson's salary because they can create the packages. It's interesting, right, to the salespeople, and actually say NA because it's not really packages, but at least what we're selling is interesting. And then naturally, the thing that somebody would say is, wait a minute, the whole reason we're doing this is to simplify what we have. So there's something else, like needs to be simple to explain to the market and to our channel partners. So option A, yeah. I can't remember what option B is. Basic and advanced. I can explain that to people. Option C, yeah, the price changed. That's fine. Oops. Yes. Yes. And then option D, we've got this new thing where everything is just a separate SKU. The complexity is going to go crazy. So now we've got a new requirement. It's invalidating that requirement. I'm just going to zoom out for a moment, and then we're going to jump to what's happening here. Obviously, this is an example. Especially in situations where we're using this in product, this is a lot slower, right? So we're looking at an intricate user experience. A lot of time we're contemplating back-end changes and load times and costs and things like that. So these options take a lot longer to develop, but the spirit is still there, and the actual effort, the exercise that we go through doesn't change a whole lot. So we'll look at, we've now got 4 options on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 requirements, and you can see how quickly our requirements list is growing here, and how much we're bringing things to the table. I'm going to scroll over here so we stay in this new Lucid chart, and I'll just talk a little bit more about what's happening in this meeting. So again, we're working through lots of options very, very quickly. In the demonstration, I'm the only one here, but it would be very natural to have 2, 3, 4 people all working in this same Lucid Spark document, copying and pasting that option A and coming up with different variations. And then as they're doing that, saying, oh man, I wonder if simplicity is a thing here. Can I just break this into SKUs, or is somebody going to get mad at me? And they throw that in as a requirement. A lot of times they throw it in with a question mark. Is this a requirement? Is it something we need to worry about? I don't know, but I can't just recognize it and forget it, because then I'm basically moving backwards. So we're working through lots of ideas very quickly. It's very easy for people to quickly prototype an idea. I just went through copy, paste, change the name, change some things. Now I've got a new artifact. We're not losing track of our ideas. So we don't want to be spinning in circles. Let's keep copying and pasting. We have rules internally that's like, if somebody's working on something, don't change the thing that they're working on or the thing that they built. Because again, this canvas is endless. Copy and paste what they've done, make your changes. Now you've got a new option that everybody can look at, even if it's a tiny little change, right? There's no cost to it. It's easy to track new requirements as they pop up. So you could see where new options created new requirements, and I just kept building that list. Creating a first cut at our scoring is easy as well. You will quickly get into, I shouldn't say that. You will sometimes get into scenarios where you'll want to weight your requirements, where you'll want to organize them and go off and do a more sophisticated version of the scoring of the ideas. I've found that at least in SaaS software where I live, a lot of times a quick score is good enough. Everybody looks at the options and says, like, clearly this is, where we want to go. We don't need to get into anything more sophisticated. It feels like we're making progress. I think this is incredibly important. This is a meeting that should be engaging. It's going to obviously have an end. A lot of times you don't solve this problem. You say, let's get back together tomorrow, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever, and keep working at it. But if you're running out of steam and running out of energy, it's not because we're just exasperated and giving up. It's because we're making progress. You know what? It feels like progress is starting to slow a little bit. Let's put the brakes on and come back to it. And that leads me to the last 2. 1, it's easy for us to choose to go off and solve specific things. So we got into the scenario where we said it needs to support a salesperson's salary. What does a salesperson need to make? Do they make money on our existing packages? Are they happy with all the packages? How can we learn about this stuff? Send a CRO, VP of sales, whoever's in charge of this, off to get that data. So when we come back together, we can actually have dollars there. It doesn't just say need to support a salesperson's salary. We can actually say, here are the characteristics that an option needs to have in order to meet these requirements, right? So I can go off and do that homework. And then the last one I think I've kind of referenced already. It's very easy to leave this document and come back to it. All of our work is there. All of our options are there. All of our requirements there. We can just pick up where we left off, usually take 5 minutes and sort of like orient yourself. Okay, what was our last option that we talked about? What were the real important requirements? And then we're off to the races, and we're continuing to ideate and come up with new options. The last thing I'll leave you with is just a set of tips here. The first one is set aside a lot of time. I think we're in this period of Outlook meetings where they're 30 minutes long, 1 hour long. In my opinion, it's not enough to solve anything that, any sort of opportunity that has a set of complex requirements. So set aside time. My next one might be a little bit pithy, but I say do it in the morning. If this is something that's dropping till 6 o'clock in the evening because that's the only time these people have to get together and solve it, it's probably not worth solving. We're sort of imagining that it's some important thing, but if it's the end of the day, everybody's exhausted, and now you want them to get into creative mode and ideation mode, it's not going to work. The next one, again, I'd say involve as few people as possible. So find people that understand the problem space. What are we trying to solve? What are the requirements? What do we really need to fit? If you notice, this is called the fit check. So that requirements list, we call it figuring out the negative space. Before I understand the solution, what fits into it, I need to define that boundary. And you can tell it's like there's cost implications, there's timing implications, there's resource implications. All that stuff goes into figuring out a negative space, and then I can start to put options in it. So involve people that understand the boundaries, the edges that need to be defined. Conversely, also involve people that understand what's possible. So in our case, we've got engineers that are always involved in these, because if we start dreaming up stuff that's not possible, it doesn't help us. So they'll help constrain us, and a lot of times they're also the ones bringing the answers to the table, because they truly understand what's technically possible, so they can lob things in. The next one, it's going to feel sloppy. Don't feel like you need to keep these lucids clean. Everybody's going to be copying and pasting things everywhere. It just gets very sort of sloppy and haphazard. It's a good thing you're keeping track of everything that's going on, so don't feel like you need to be constantly straightening everything out. I need to remind myself of this pretty frequently. The next one, practice turning conversations into requirements. So things will pop up. Oh, if we build this, will compliance be okay with it? Don't just let that go by. Find that requirements list, hit enter, create a new post-it. Compliance will sign off is now a requirement. If one of our options violates it, it's not a good option. Or we're going to say, you know what? We're so time constrained. The compliance people are going to have to deal with it, but at least I can be aware of it and I can make that trade-off. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is, in my opinion, at least in the product world, this can span weeks and months. So you go in, you list it, you find options, you have homework like the salesperson salary thing. Separate, do your homework, come back together. A lot of times our homework is technical spiking, right? We don't really know if this is possible. Hey, get an engineer to go off for an hour to figure this out, see what they can learn about this part of our application, our infrastructure, come back, and then we'll continue to work on this. If we really get stuck, the trick here is to zoom out to what we're trying to solve. So back to our packaging and pricing thing, we had a growth objective that we needed to solve. If we get so stuck around requirements and we're at the end of our list and we don't have options, we need to go back to that basic objective. If we have a growth objective that we need to hit, is packaging and pricing the only lever that we can pull to get there? Or are we sort of, spinning right now and trying to come up with things when we're really, really stuck? Zoom back out and see what you can figure out. I hope that this helps you. Give it a shot. If you get stuck, ping me, let me know. I'll try to help as much as possible. But if you're stuck and you're in these meetings where you feel like going around and around, and again, you're hearing that thing like, okay, a group of us will go off and figure it out. I hope that you can reach for this tool and that it unsticks you and helps you get through these complex problems faster.